You can get comfortable, let your shoulders loosen, let the darkness around you settle a little. Because we're starting slow, quiet, and just a little unsettling, the way the best late-night whispers begin. You ever walk into a house and feel like the shadows noticed you first? Not in a dramatic way, not in a ghost-hunting reality show way, just a tiny prickle at the back of your neck, like something inside the walls paused whatever it was doing just to watch you breathe. Amanda Carson felt that on day one. She didn't tell anyone because, well, she was a single mom in a tired old rental market, and the house was cheap. Cheap enough to overlook the drafty hallways, the weird creaking sounds under the floorboards, and that basement that seemed way too big for a house built in 1904. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. For now, just remember this. Amanda moved into a home that reacted like a living thing, and living things have secrets. So take a slow breath. Yeah, just like that. Let the tension melt a little. Tonight, we're going deep into psychological shadows, into places where reality folds if you stare too long, into the kind of quiet, sleeping horror that waits, patient, still, right beneath your feet. Before we drift into the dark, if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It helps these long, slow burn horror journeys continue. And trust me, you'll want to hear the rest of this one. Now, let's step gently into the story. Let the lights stay dim, let the silence stretch, and let your mind walk beside mine. Amanda Carson wasn't the kind of person who scared easily. She worked late nights, balanced bills, and raised her 8-year-old son, Tommy, with the kind of tired love only single parents understand. So when she found the old 2-story house on Harper Ridge Road, with its creaky porch and half-dead lawn, she saw potential, a fresh start, a place quiet enough for Tommy to sleep better, and safe enough for her to breathe a little easier. The landlord, a silent guy with thinning hair, handed her the keys without small talk. He didn't smile, didn't even fake a polite nod, just said, "House has good bones." And then he left like the conversation was already over. Which, yeah, totally normal landlord behavior. But the moment Amanda stepped inside, the air shifted cooler, heavier, as if the place was greeting her with a long, curious exhale. Tommy walked in behind her, his small sneakers tapping softly on the wooden floor. He didn't run around like kids usually do in a new home rental. Didn't ask about his room, didn't poke his head around corners. He just looked straight down the hall toward the basement door. "Mom?" he murmured, voice barely above a whisper. "Did someone already go downstairs?" Amanda frowned. "No, honey, it's just us." Tommy didn't move, didn't blink. "I saw someone," he said. Just like that, calm, matter of fact, like he saw a coat or a box. Amanda squeezed his shoulder, soft, reassuring. "You're probably just tired. Long day, new house. Come help me pick which room gets your dinosaur posters." He nodded, but his eyes, they stayed fixed on the basement door, like something down there was watching back. Every horror story cheats a little with basements. They're dark, creepy, a little too quiet. It's easy material. But this basement wasn't supposed to be anything special. 3 rooms, old stone walls, a laundry sink that had seen better centuries. That's all. At least, that's what the landlord wrote on the lease. But houses don't care much about paperwork. Later that night, after moving boxes and microwaving cheap noodles, Amanda finally opened the basement door. Cold air breathed up the stairs, a little stronger than it should have been. "Great," she muttered. Natural air conditioning. Her footsteps echoed as she descended. One light bulb flickered overhead. The kind of flicker that really wants you to know it's trying its best but might die any minute. The basement layout was exactly like the floor plans showed. Room 1, storage. Room 2, old furnace. Room 3, laundry. That's it. Nothing unusual. She explored for maybe 10 minutes. Checked the walls. Checked corners. Checked behind old pipes. No 4th room. No hidden doorway. No someone waiting in the shadows. Just dust, cold air, and that familiar sense of being noticed. A feeling like a quiet audience, standing just a little too close. Amanda exhaled. Tommy just saw his reflection or something. Except the basement didn't have mirrors, or shiny pipes, or anything reflective at all. Still, she shook it off and went back upstairs, making sure she locked the basement door, just in case. The next morning, Amanda found Tommy already awake, with his sketch pad on the living room floor. He drew a lot monsters, spaceships, Dinosaurs with too many teeth, nothing unusual for an 8-year-old kid. But today's drawing, she froze. He'd drawn a hallway, long, narrow, with cracked walls tilting inward, as if the whole place were shrinking. At the end of the hallway was a door she did not recognize. And standing in front of that door was a tall, thin shadow figure. No face, no features, just a stretched outline. Too long, too wrong, too quiet. The kind of figure kids shouldn't imagine unless they've seen something real. Amanda forced a smile. New monster? Tommy didn't look up. No. Then what is it? He shrugged. The man from the 4th room. Amanda blinked. What 4th room? Tommy finally met her eyes, and his voice dropped so low it barely made it across the air. The one nobody built. She felt a chill crawl up her spine, a slow, crawling kind, like a cold hand tracing her bones. Sweetie, the basement doesn't have a 4th room. Tommy tilted his head. But he showed it to me. Amanda swallowed. Who did? The man without a face. He said it so casually that for a moment Amanda forgot how to breathe. This wasn't imagination. Not the way he said it. Not the way his hands shook just slightly when he shaded the corner of the hallway darker. Amanda knelt beside him. You didn't go down there alone, right? Tommy shook his head. No, I don't have to go. Sometimes it comes upstairs. She stared at him. It? He nodded once. The shadow guessed. Amanda didn't sleep much. Every house makes noise at night. Wood expands. Pipes settle. Wind moves through vents. Normal stuff. But the tapping under the floorboards wasn't normal. Neither was the low hum that rose from the basement like a voice speaking through walls. And at around 3:13 a.m., she heard soft footsteps just outside her bedroom door. Tiny ones. Tommy? She whispered, but the footsteps didn't answer. They just paused. A long, still pause, right on the other side of the door. She forced herself out of bed and opened it slowly. Tommy was sound asleep, in his room, breathing steady, body still. He hadn't moved. Amanda's chest tightened with unease. Her heart thudded in her ears. She checked the hallway. Nothing, just cold air. Too cold. She looked down the stairwell. The basement door was open. She absolutely knew she had locked it earlier. Her whisper trembled out of her mouth. Nope, no, we're not doing this tonight. She stepped toward it, slow and cautious. Every footstep a soft echo. In the dark, empty corridor, the basement light flickered alive on its own. And for a second, just a second, Amanda thought she saw a silhouette at the bottom of the stairs. Tall, thin, still, a silent watcher, waiting patiently. Her breath caught. The shape blinked out like it had leaned back into the darkness. She shut the basement door, locked it twice, and then leaned her forehead against it, trying to steady her breath. But then, soft as a child whispering secrets, tap, tap, tap from the other side. Almost like someone knocking, but with fingertips too long to belong to anything human. Amanda stepped away, back pressed to the hallway wall. Something shifted behind the basement door. A shadow slipped under the crack, a slender, stretched shape that didn't belong in any normal house. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands, ready to call someone, anyone, but then the tapping stopped. Silence, heavy, absolute, wrong. And slowly, very slowly, the shadow withdrew, like it knew she was watching, like it enjoyed being watched. Amanda whispered to herself, this is just pipes, just old house energy, just a tired mom losing it. But deep down, in the part of her mind she tried to quiet, she knew the truth. Something in the basement was awake, and it had already begun watching her family. Morning came heavy. Tommy sat at the table eating cereal, kicking his legs softly under the chair, like nothing happened. Amanda, still shaken, sat across from him. You okay, honey? He pushed a new drawing toward her. This time, it wasn't a hallway. It wasn't a door. It wasn't even the shadow man. It was Tommy himself, standing in the basement. But behind him, in perfect detail, was another Tommy. Same height, same hair, same clothes. Just wrong. The eyes were too dark, the smile too wide, the head tilted too far. Amanda felt her mouth go dry. What is this? Tommy didn't look up. The shadow guest said the 4th room isn't for sleeping. He paused. It's for choosing. Amanda felt cold all over. What do you mean? Tommy finally looked at her. There can only be one of me when the door opens again. Amanda woke up the next morning with that same heavy feeling pressing against her ribs, like the house wasn't just sitting there but quietly leaning in, listening. And as she moved through the kitchen making coffee that tasted a bit like burnt hope, the floor gave a slow, tired groan beneath her feet, almost like it was stretching after a long night of watching her. She tried to shake it off, tried to tell herself she was just exhausted, that anyone would be jumpy after hearing tapping on the other side of a door they definitely locked twice. But the air still felt dense, cold, almost humid, with a quiet breath that didn't belong to her. Tommy shuffled in wearing his dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction like static fear had been playing with it all night. And he gave her a sleepy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. She pulled him onto her lap, trying to be casual, trying to pretend everything was normal. But he stiffened the moment he faced the hallway leading to the basement, and when she asked if he wanted to watch cartoons, he shook his head slowly and whispered, "He doesn't like noise in the morning." That made Amanda's stomach turn, a slow sinking feeling like dropping down an elevator shaft just a little too fast. She kept her voice calm, soft, the way parents do when they're terrified, but don't want their kid to absorb the fear like a sponge. "Sweetheart, who told you that?" And Tommy, without looking up from his cereal, said, "The one who watches from the cold floor." Amanda felt her breath catch because she didn't tell him she felt the cold, didn't tell him the floor had that strange icy patch near the basement door, didn't tell him she saw something tall shift in the dark. Kids shouldn't know things they weren't present for. She tried to redirect, talking about school, friends, toys, anything, but Tommy just ate quietly, occasionally glancing toward the stairwell with that same nervous flick of his eyes, like he expected something to peek around the corner at any moment. Around noon, Amanda decided enough was enough. She was going to check the basement again, prove to herself that everything was fine, that last night was just a mixture of exhaustion and imagination, the kind adults pretend they've outgrown. She took a flashlight even though the basement had working lights, well, flickering working lights, and told Tommy to stay upstairs. He didn't argue. He just pressed himself against the couch cushions, gripping them tightly, whispering, "If the door's breathing, don't open it." Which of course is not what any grown adult wants to hear from an 8-year-old before going into a dark basement. But Amanda went anyway, partly because she needed answers, and partly because fear mixed with adrenaline makes humans do slightly stupid things. As soon as she opened the basement door, a cold, whispering draft curled up the stairs, brushing along her ankles like invisible fingers testing her temperature. She stepped down slowly, each creak under her feet echoing just a bit too long, like the house repeated the sound softly after her. The basement looked the same at first glance. The old furnace sitting like a rusted beast in the corner, the cracked concrete floor, the laundry sink stained with 100 years of who knows what. 3 rooms, just 3. She walked to the far wall and ran her fingers along it, tapping gently to check for hollows, trying to find seams or hidden hinges because a part of her, the logical part still clinging on, wanted this to be something normal. But the wall felt solid, old, firm, until she reached one particular spot where the concrete was almost unnaturally cold, like it had been holding on to winter long after the rest of the house warmed. Her breath fogged slightly in front of her. She leaned in. That was when she heard it. A faint, almost delicate sound, breathing, slow, measured, coming from the other side of the wall. Amanda froze, every muscle in her body stiffening, like she'd been carved out of the ice she was touching. It wasn't the house settling. It wasn't pipes. It was too steady, too alive, too close. She stumbled back, flashlight shaking in her hand, the beam jittering across the floor until it landed on something small. A crumpled piece of paper, a drawing, Tommy's sketch paper. She hadn't brought it down. She hadn't allowed him down here. She picked it up with trembling fingers and unfolded it. Another hallway, another impossible angle, another door that didn't exist, and a figure, this time bigger, darker, its head turned sharply as if listening at the wall. Amanda felt something behind her shift, a subtle displacement of air like someone stepping closer, and she spun around. Nothing there. But when she looked back at the wall, it was damp, just a small patch, like something had pressed its forehead against it. She ran upstairs, slamming the basement door shut hard enough to rattle the frame, and leaned against it, trying to slow her breathing. Tommy peeked over the couch, hugging his stuffed dinosaur. "Did it talk to you?" he asked in a soft, almost guilty voice. Amanda crouched in front of him, brushing hair away from his forehead. "Honey, "Has anyone talked to you besides me?" He nodded. One slow, heavy nod. "He said the room comes and goes because it's not supposed to be here. He said it shows up when it wants something." Amanda swallowed hard. "And what does it want?" Tommy looked down, twisting the tail of his stuffed dinosaur between his fingers. "He said it wants to finish what it started with the other kids." A thick silence filled the room, the kind that presses on your temples and makes your heart beat louder against your ribs. Amanda tried to keep her voice calm, but it cracked anyway. "What other kids?" Tommy's expression didn't change. "The ones who didn't choose fast enough." Amanda felt a wave of dread roll through her so strong she had to sit down. She pulled Tommy into her arms, holding him tight like she could anchor him to the world with sheer force. She whispered to him, not sure if she was comforting him or herself. "No one is taking you. Nothing is choosing anything. This house doesn't get a vote." But Tommy didn't relax. Instead, he whispered back, barely audible against her shoulder. He said the house only breathes when the fourth room is waking up. And right then, from beneath the floorboards, as if responding to his words, came a soft, hollow echo, like a slow inhale from something very large and very patient waiting in the dark below them. Amanda didn't move. Neither did Tommy. They just sat there in the unmoving air of the living room, listening as the house took another quiet breath and another, as if preparing itself for something, as if gathering strength, as if the fourth room, wherever it was stretching awake, ready to open again. And Amanda realized then, with a cold certainty settling like frost down her spine, that the basement wasn't just part of the house. It was becoming something, watching, waiting, rearranging itself like a creature making a nest. She didn't know how to fight a house. She didn't know how to protect her son from walls that could move and doors that appeared only when they wanted to. But she knew one thing with absolute clarity. She wasn't letting that fourth room take Tommy, not while she was still breathing, not while she still had the strength to stand between him and whatever was crawling through the dark concrete. But as the whispering draft rose again from under the basement door, colder this time, almost excited, she had a sinking suspicion she wasn't the only one preparing for a fight. Amanda spent the rest of that day pretending everything was normal, even though nothing felt normal anymore. Not the air, not the shadows, not even the way the house seemed to shift its weight when she walked through it, like it was adjusting itself around her. She tried putting on a movie for Tommy, something bright and silly, the kind of thing that usually made him giggle, but he barely glanced at the screen, eyes fixed instead on the hallway where the basement door sat like a patient mouth waiting to speak. She kept telling herself this was stress, that moving into an old house came with its own weird creaks and groans, that kids had vivid imaginations, and that she, a grown adult with bills and responsibilities, could absolutely handle a little creepy architecture. But that night, when Tommy finally fell asleep, curled against her side, clutching his dinosaur like it was a life raft, she felt that tiny tug again, the same one she felt on the first day. The air shifted, the temperature dipped, and somewhere deep below them, the house made a sound too soft to classify as anything other than a sigh. Amanda lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the night. She tried to talk herself down. "It's just a house," she whispered to the room, hoping it would believe her. But the floorboards under the bed gave a slow, heavy creak, almost like something big was settling beneath them, and her breath caught in her throat. Around 2:30 a.m., she heard Tommy mumble in his sleep. At first it sounded like normal dream talk, just soft little noises, but then his voice sharpened, trembling. No, I don't want to go. I said I don't want to go in there." Amanda shot upright. "Tommy?" His eyes stayed closed, but his breathing sped up, and he whispered, "You said the door wouldn't open tonight." Amanda shook him gently, whispering his name until his eyes fluttered open. He gasped and clung to her, hands shaking. He was standing next to the bed, he whispered, voice cracked and sleepy, and he said the room is hungry. Amanda hugged him tighter, stroking his hair, trying to calm the both of them, even though her heart felt like it was climbing her throat. She forced a soft laugh, the kind adults use when they're desperately trying to make something less terrifying. "Sweetheart, rooms don't get hungry. They just sit there, being dusty and annoying. Trust me, I've cleaned enough of them." But Tommy didn't smile. He said it only eats the extra ones. Amanda froze. "Extra ones?" Tommy nodded slowly, eyelids heavy, voice drifting. "The ones who don't belong here. The wrong one. The doubles." A chill slid through her chest. She laid there for a long time after Tommy drifted back to sleep, staring into the dark, listening, and at some point the faintest sound echoed up from the basement, a tiny rhythmic tapping, too deliberate to be random. She closed her eyes, whispering, "You're not going down there. I'm not doing this again." But the sound didn't care what she wanted. The tapping grew louder, closer, almost playful. By dawn, the sound stopped, but Amanda didn't sleep at all. When morning finally arrived, she carried Tommy to the kitchen, trying to pretend she was rested, even though the shadows under her eyes felt like bruises. Tommy sat quietly, poking his pancakes without really eating. He looked pale, drained, like he'd been awake for longer than she thought. She reached over and rubbed his shoulder. "Rough night?" He hesitated, then whispered, "He said the room is almost ready." Amanda felt that sting again, like someone pushing cold fingertips into the back of her neck. "Tommy, listen to me. There is no fourth room. There is no extra door. You haven't gone down there. You haven't seen anything." Tommy blinked slowly. "But I didn't see it last night," he said softly. "It came up to see me." Amanda felt the breath leave her lungs. "In your room?" He shook his head. "No." He said rooms don't matter when he wants something. She swallowed. She didn't want to believe any of this, but every instinct in her body screamed that something was wrong with this house, something old and heavy and aware. So she did the thing every frightened parent eventually does. She called someone. She called the landlord. He didn't answer. She called again, straight to voicemail. She left a message that started calm and ended very much not calm, telling him to call her back immediately because something was wrong with the basement and she needed to know if there had been renovations or structural issues or whatever. She didn't mention the breathing walls or the shadow figures or the drawings. She wasn't ready to sound that unhinged on a voicemail. Hours passed, no call back. Meanwhile, the cold spot near the basement door grew larger, stretching across the hardwood like frostbite, spreading under the house. Amanda avoided looking at it, but every time she walked past that hallway, she felt it, like standing too close to a freezer door that someone opened from the inside. Around noon, she caught Tommy staring at the basement door again, his small body rigid, his fingers digging into the fabric of his shirt. "Mom," he whispered, "do you hear it?" And she did, a faint, steady scrape, like stone dragging against stone, slow, patient, determined. Amanda took Tommy by the hand and gently tugged him back toward the living room. "We're going out today," she said, forcing her voice to sound cheerful. "Park day, ice cream day, anything but basement day." But Tommy didn't move. He just kept staring at the door, eyes glassy. "If we leave," he murmured, "he said he'll just take the other me instead." Amanda froze. "What other you?" Tommy slowly raised his hand and pointed to the hallway mirror. His reflection stared back, pale and tired. But behind that reflection, just for a moment, Amanda saw something flicker. A shape taller than Tommy. A face that wasn't a face. Something leaning down behind the glass like it was listening. Amanda's breath caught as the reflection shimmered, just faintly, like heat rising off asphalt. And Tommy whispered, "He said I don't have to choose if the house already knows which one is real." Amanda yanked the mirror off the wall so fast it nearly shattered, shoved it face down on the floor, and dragged Tommy out of the hallway. Her chest tight, her heart racing like she just sprinted up 10 flights of stairs. That night, she barricaded the basement door with furniture she knew wouldn't stop anything supernatural, but made her feel just a tiny bit more in control. She tucked Tommy into her bed again, keeping the lamp on this time, even though the dim yellow glow made the shadows look deeper. For a while, the house was quiet, too quiet, not even the usual creaks, nothing. And then around midnight, the soft breathing started. Not Tommy's, not hers, from the floorboards, from the walls, from underneath the bed. Like the entire house had lungs, like it was inhaling the night, slow and greedy. Amanda pulled Tommy closer, heart thudding, whispering, "Just stay asleep, baby. Just stay with me. We're okay. We're okay." But the house exhaled, long and low, vibrating through the mattress like a living thing shifting its weight. And then the voice came, a whisper so soft Amanda thought at first it was her imagination. But Tommy heard it too because he stiffened in her arms. It drifted up from beneath the floor, from beneath the blankets, from beneath everything. "He's ready." Tommy whimpered, burying his face against her, and the voice grew just a little clearer. "The fourth room is open." Amanda didn't move. She didn't breathe. She didn't dare. And then the lamp flickered, once, twice, and the room went black. As I stepped out into the motel's dim hallway again, it felt like the air itself had grown heavier. like the building was quietly breathing around me, watching me. And I know that sounds dramatic, but trust me, when you're alone at midnight and the wallpaper looks like it's peeling back just enough to reveal something darker underneath, your imagination starts picking up a little too much overtime. And I walk slowly, trying to convince myself that everything was fine, that the weird footsteps I heard earlier were probably just the old pipe settling, or maybe some raccoon with an attitude problem. But the hall felt longer than before, almost stretched, and each light flickered at the exact moment I passed under it, like someone was messing with a switch in perfect timing. And I found myself whispering, "Okay, that's normal, totally normal," even though I absolutely did not believe it. And when I glanced back, I could have sworn I saw a shadow slip behind the corner where nobody had been standing a second ago. But I kept walking because stopping felt like the worst idea I could possibly come up with. And the silence became so thick, I could hear my own heartbeat, slow and stubborn, like it was trying to warn me to turn around. But I didn't, because curiosity is a beautiful curse, and something inside me needed to know why room 12 looked so wrong from the outside, why the door seemed like it was breathing in slow, shallow movements. And the closer I got, the more the floor under me creaked, not in random old wood patterns, but in this rhythmic, almost conversational pattern, like the building was whispering something back. And I gently reached out, touched the cold metal doorknob, felt a pulse under it. Yeah, a pulse, like human pulse. And I froze, because that's the kind of thing you don't prepare for in life. Nobody teaches you how to react when a motel door has a heartbeat. But I stayed there, fingers still on the handle, breathing as quietly as I could. And from the other side of the door, I heard the softest sound, like someone humming an off-key lullaby, slow and low, rocking back and forth. And the moment I realized it was the same lullaby that had been stuck in my head since I checked in, the same melody I didn't even remember learning, I felt this slow chill crawl up my spine, like cold fingertips tracing every vertebra. And I whispered to myself, yeah, no, this is definitely above my pay grade, but still didn't let go, because honestly, at that point, I wasn't sure whether I was holding the door or the door was holding me. And the humming got a little louder, a little closer, like someone was leaning right against the other side. And in this soft, trembling voice, they whispered my name, like they'd been practicing it for years. And that's when I knew things were about to get much, much worse. As the door whispered my name, I felt this tiny, instinctive twitch in my fingers, like my body desperately wanted to run while my brain was still stuck trying to figure out who or what remembered me well enough to say my name in that slow, familiar, almost affectionate way. And I don't know if you've ever felt nostalgia and dread at the same exact time, but let me tell you, it's a weird emotional cocktail. Like your soul is trying to smile while your spine is packing its bags. And I swallowed hard, whispering, "Okay, we're staying calm, sure," even though my voice cracked like bad radio static, and the humming behind the door shifted into this soft breathing that matched mine beat for beat, like whoever was there was listening carefully, syncing with me. And in the silence, I could hear the faint scrape of something brushing along the floor, slow, dragging, like bare feet or maybe hands. Honestly, I didn't want to think about that part too much, and the doorknob warmed under my hand, like it was reacting to my pulse or maybe trying to mimic it. And I whispered, "I'm really not licensed for this level of creepy." But my hand stayed, because I realized something. The motel didn't want me to leave. It wanted me to listen, and the longer I stood there, the more the air changed around me, getting thick and warm, like the hallway itself was leaning closer, waiting. And then through the door came this quiet, trembling voice, so fragile it sounded like it might crumble if I breathed too hard, saying, "I've been trying to reach you. You left me behind. You forgot me. But I never forgot you." And I felt this sharp pressure in my head, like a memory trying to surface, something old and blurry, something I'd pushed deep down where things go when they're too strange to deal with. And suddenly images flickered behind my eyes, flickering motel lights, a small shadow standing at the foot of a bed, my own voice whispering, "Don't look at it." And I blinked hard because none of that made sense, but the voice on the other side kept talking softly, almost pleading, "You promised you'd come back." And yeah, look, I know I make questionable decisions sometimes, but I am very confident I've never made a promise to a mysterious door entity in a budget motel. Yet something in the tone made my chest tighten with this weird guilt I couldn't explain. And I whispered, "Who are you?" And the pause that followed was too long, too heavy, like the air was shivering, and then it said in the gentlest, smallest voice, "I'm the part of you that stayed here." And every light in the hallway flickered at once, long and slow, like the whole building sighed. And in that moment I realized opening this door wouldn't just show me what was inside, it would show me what I'd been running from long before I ever checked in. As soon as it said those words, "I'm the part of you that stayed here," I felt this slow, sinking heaviness slide through my chest, like someone gently pressing down on my heart with a cold hand, not hurting me, just reminding me it was there. And I found myself whispering back, almost without thinking, That's not possible. I've never been here before," even though a tiny, traitorous part of my mind whispered, "Maybe you have, maybe not in the way you remember." And the hallway suddenly felt warmer, like the air was leaning in to hear my reaction, and the voice behind the door breathed out this soft, trembling sigh, like it had been waiting years for me to argue so it could feel closer to me again. And it said, "You were small then and scared, and you closed your eyes so tightly you thought you erased me. But places like this don't forget, and neither do the pieces you leave behind." And okay, that was not comforting. That was very much the opposite of comforting. But the way it spoke was so gentle and familiar that I felt my fear mixing with this strange, aching curiosity, like listening to an old voicemail from someone you don't remember loving. And I whispered, "If you're part of me, why are you behind a door?" And for a moment, everything went completely still. Not quiet, but still, like the whole motel paused its breathing. And the voice answered, slow and soft, "Because you locked me there." And that hit me harder than I expected, like someone tugged at a thread inside my memory I didn't know was loose. And I could almost see it. Me as a kid, standing in a dim room, refusing to look at something sitting into the corner, whispering over and over, "Stay here, stay here, stay here," like I was trying to trap a nightmare where it couldn't follow me. And I shook my head quickly because none of that made sense. It felt too dreamlike, too distant, and yet the weight of it pressed against the back of my mind like a forgotten handprint. And the voice on the other side said, "You grew up without me, and I waited, and I learned your name better than you ever said it yourself." And I swear the hallway lights dimmed at the exact moment it spoke, like they were embarrassed for me. And I felt my grip tighten on the doorknob, even though every survival instinct I had was screaming to step away. But there was this pull, like gravity, but emotional, drawing me closer, and something warm traced along the inside of my skull, a memory I hadn't asked for, whispering that I owed it something, owed myself something. And I breathed in slowly, trying to steady my shaking voice, and asked, "What happens if I open the door?" And the answer came so softly, so lovingly, like a lullaby I didn't remember falling asleep to. "Then you finally come home."